set, secure. Automation and orchestration, endpoint detection and response, network visibility, cloud, containers, DevSecOps, threat intelligence, security platforms. Wondering how to keep up with all the latest security products and trends while still keeping your organization safe? Then stick around to listen to Ready, Set, Secure, the SET Solutions Podcast.
And hey, everybody, welcome to episode 43 of the SET Solutions Podcast, Ready, Set, Secure, live stream and podcast. My name is Michael Farnham, CTO with SET Solutions. I am all by lonesome today in the studio, but that's okay. We've got some cool guests to introduce and talk to. As you can see, we're making a couple of little changes here. We may have some more changes in our studio soon. We're hoping we do. We're trying to upgrade and do more cool stuff here. So that's my spiel. So introducing our two guests today. First of all, David Adamczyk. David is VP of Sales Strategy and Development over at CyberArks. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. You want to give the listeners and viewers a little quick blurb about yourself?
Sure, I do. I've been with CyberArks for about 16 years, working with organizations. Back in the day before audit, it was just audit before breaches. And then with breaches, how are we able to improve security? How are we able to do so without impacting operational efficiency and meeting audit as well? On how we be able to build on our program. So I appreciate the opportunity today to share that experience as well as my experience working with cyber insurance, both helping people mitigate on the insurers as well to make sure we're able to get that coverage.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate you being here. As David said, you can hear, I don't think it's a spoiler alert. It's in the, probably should have said it at the beginning. We're going to be talking about cyber insurance. No, that's good. It's I did not say it. So thank you for doing my job for me, David. So yeah, we're going to be talking about cyber insurance today. If you don't know, CyberArks is a huge partner of SET Solutions. We've done stuff with CyberArks for years, got a great relationship at all levels. If you need to know anything about CyberArks, please let us know. Love the company, love what they're doing. So again, thanks, David, for being here. And next up is a familiar face. Been a little bit since Nolen's been here, but Nolen Bucek is agent over at Dean & Draper, who is our insurance provider, and Nolen also has a lot of expertise in the cyber insurance space, deals with that a lot. So Nolen, thanks for being with us again.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Great to be back. I'm here at Dean & Draper Insurance Agency. Been here, I think it's my 13th year. So started right out of school, and then this is life for me. So following the trends, especially in relation to cyber insurance, has been interesting and very educational, and it has moved quite significantly and gotten more complex, but also makes it more interesting as well. So I'm happy to be on to chat about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Nolen's going to give us, I think, a history lesson here in a little bit of what it looked like and what it's looked like and how it's evolved in that space. So definitely interesting, definitely different than when I was running a security shop back in the day, years and years ago. I don't even think that was really entering people's minds with the cyber insurance. So thanks for being on. So now that we've got the introductions out of the way, I'm going to be talking about real quick on the SET Solutions segment. The only thing I want to talk about today is that we've got a golf tournament coming up in May. It's on May 20th up in Dallas. And please let us know if you want to attend that. Talk to your account rep. If you got an account rep here at SET Solutions, it's always a big fun deal. We play pretty much the whole morning, have prizes, have all kinds of good sponsors there to talk to as well. So please let us know if you want to join that. It's a lot of fun. I don't even play golf hardly, and I enjoy that event because I get to ride everybody around in a golf cart. So that's a lot of fun. Okay, so now we've got two articles for you we're going to be talking about. David has got the first one, and I've got the second one. So, David, you're going to be talking about Revil, R-E-Evil, however people want to say it. What's going on with those guys?
Sure. So this is one that everyone may be familiar with. About a year plus ago, they had attacked the JBS meat company, and it was an $11 million ransom, and that really cut into that wasn't just somebody looking for money. That really impacted food, and therefore the White House got very much involved, and the White House was very much involved with the Russian government, and was actually able to make some progress. In January, there were some arrests, and it looked like, when one goes down, another one pops up. But given their strength, their brand recognition, their name, it was definitely a big step forward to see that, starting to be dismantled after those arrests occurred. And it was also disheartening to see now that in India, a new ransomware on India oil for $7.9 million, and it looked to be the same. And it looks as though there's a resurgence. They're actually now starting to recruit by recruiting an 80-20 split for ransomware. So the concern is, given the horrible things that are going around the world and what's happening in Russia specifically, are we going to see this resurgence coming back with a vengeance, not only for ransomware, but also double and triple extortion? How may their previous experiences start to play into this, and what might we be looking out for because of that?
Yeah, it was already a double extortion kind of movement for a lot of them. Now that especially depending on how much people think that they're involved with the Russian government, very similar to some of the ways that North Korea does stuff with, the sanctions that always exist on them. Now you've got sanctions that exist for Russia. This is a way for them to start pulling in funds if they have ties with the Russian government, and Russia's probably not going to do a whole lot. There was a whole lot of conjecture there on that happening right before the Ukrainian invasion, and they were trying to sow goodwill with the Western countries by going and doing this stuff. And obviously that didn't work too well, but it's really interesting. They were also for us in the IT and cybersecurity space that know about like MSPs and that NBRs and that kind of thing. They also were the ones who said they were responsible for the Kaseya attack, which has a ton of implications across our industry if you're a managed provider at all. So yeah, a little bit worrisome. Hopefully this is not the trend of something, but I the security curmudgeon in me says this is probably the start of something else big. So Nolen, you got any thoughts on this one?
Well, no, it's the ransomware, which just a little interesting statistical thing that I pulled. This is from a specific provider, but they specialize in cyber insurance. And out of all the claims, I think total losses in 21 was around $6.9 billion in cyber related insurance claims. And out of the claims, they said 35% of it, and this is just this particular provider, it could be more, was ransomware. So it's a little shy of half of the issues that they have. And we all know there's a whole lot of different ways that it can be problematic, but it's a pretty large percentage were from ransomware. So, and I'm sure with the insurance products being out there now that they want to do it more than ever because they hope that a company will tap into the insurance and let the insurance company pay it. So could be why they're asking for the large limits. I'm not sure, but it just one other thing I'll add too is, there's obviously large corporations that get targeted for cyber attacks, but there's also a very, very large percentage of the attacks go with 100 employees and under sized businesses. So it's not just the big guys. We hear about a lot of the big guys because it's a lot more interesting than the mom and pop, but it's happening across the board, big companies and small. So it's unfortunate, but it's the reality.
Yeah. I guess we don't have a ton of time to discuss it, but Nolen, are you seeing, and maybe David, you're seeing this too. So we had a guy on a few months back who's a friend of mine who is a negotiator for ransomware victims, and he works directly with whoever's attacked them and try to get that down. Is the insurance agency looking at, or they already have people that are working for them that do that service so you can try to cut some of that payment down, or is that still kind of a side service that you're maybe talking to them, or do you know?
Well, we try as much as we can, but really it happens a lot on the insurance company side, the carrier side. So the carrier that's backing up the policy, but they do have people internally who, with a lot of other things, assist with negotiations as well. So, they're the insurance company. They're not just trying to cut the check for it to go to waste. So they do have some internal resources that will help with the negotiating. Us as the agency, we kind of help steward the way throughout the claims process. And of course, we have our in-house claims directors and loss control people that are able to help, but the true experts are really on the commercial side, on the insurance company side. So they are staffed up and do have folks who do assist with that as well.
Awesome.
We've also
David, any
seen,
parting words?
Sure. Just the underwriters now becoming much more security minded and really starting to understand what that is. Because again, the insurance company is going to pay out, but it's the insurance company's job to make sure that they can pay out. So another area where they're protecting themselves is instead of being able to, previously it was a $10 million policy, is now a $5 million policy, to make sure they're going to be able to pay out, but to make sure they're not going to be, too overly exposed as well. I don't know if I stepped on your toes there.
No, not at all. Yep, you're absolutely right. Yep.
All right. Well, obviously we'll be covering a little bit of this in our main conversation. So thanks for the article, David. That was good stuff. Now I'm going to jump over to mine, and this is actually a little bit of good news in our industry, if you can believe it. So this is from over at Dark Reading. They talked about the early discovery of pipe dream malware was a success story for industrial security. So as we've talked about on here, and we've talked about in other webinars and everything else that we talked about, we've a lot of OT. The Set Solutions works with a lot of operational technology companies, ICS, SCADA, oil and gas, and energy, and manufacturing is a big part of our world, of our customers. And so we talk to them a lot about what they're seeing in the industry. And one of the things that a couple of companies out there found was the recent discovery of a malware framework that they called, and like all of these, depending on who discovered it, they all give the things different names, which can all come out of, you never know where they come up with some of the names. But one of them called it Pipe Dream, the other one called it In Controller. But this malware framework was targeting industrial control systems. And when these two organizations, I think it was Mandiant and Dragos, both started seeing the framework, started figuring out what that framework was, what it was trying to do, and did that before really it could go out and start hitting a bunch of companies out there, a bunch of OT companies. So they were able to kind of shut this down, figure out where it was going to be, what it was going to do, what the capabilities of it were. So yeah, it was Mandiant and Dragos both released separate reports on the framework. Mandiant called it In Controller, Dragos called it Pipe Dream. And what they called it was a cyber espionage and attack framework. And it was specifically targeting the industrial control systems, but they'd found it back in early April, and another firm, ESET, announced that they were working with an energy provider in the Ukraine to mitigate another attack as well, which was Indestroyer 2. So we've got two instances of organizations in the cybersecurity world finding these things and helping mitigate these attacks, either preemptively or really early on in the cycle. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, we're always talking about stuff going bad. Let's talk about something going good. So yeah, David, any thoughts there? I mean, did you read the article? What'd you think about it?
Yes, I mean, and this is where things are going. It's no longer the check the box. It's not the, we're okay, that's going to happen to somebody else, we're going to check the box just to meet the audit. Now we've reached that point that people say, okay, this is real. It's not about checking the box. It's actually about making some real progress and then being able to see tangible results to that. So I think this is a phenomenal thing for the industry and the way things are moving, and really to back up to, when we don't just check the box, we can really make a difference.
That's a great point. I mean, you can't have an auditor mentality walking into this, right? It can't just be, oh, we can put this in. You've got to have companies like this that are able to go out there and proactively do this work. These companies are very well known for going out and proactively looking for attacks and putting that in their intel sets, right? This is stuff you need to know about. This particular TTP that is particular to your company, they're going to follow these certain tactics to come after you because you have certain things that they want. Let's go after that and find that intel on these companies. And Mandiant and Dragos both went out and did it at the same time, which I think is really fantastic news. Nolen, any thoughts?
Not much more than that. It's always better to be proactive, right? So it's great that we're able to get some intel so we can structure, the protection around, kind of seeing what the bad guys or angle is, right? So I think that's in any circumstance, it's better to get ahead of it and be proactive with it and set yourself up for success before it happens rather than reactive and it's too late. And this is how they got us now. They can't maybe do it that same way again, but then, it's too late at that point. So I just think it's wonderful getting a little bit of that intel up front before the actual attack happened. I think that's phenomenal. More of that would really help.
Yep. And I think that's the way you have to tackle it, because we're always in this arms race constantly. We develop this tool, they develop something to get around it. I mean, Mandiant, before the FireEye split, they had the malware sandbox, the first one that really came out and did what it was supposed to do and found all of these things. But then it wasn't that long after that the attackers figured out how to get around that particular way. So you had to fight, and you just can't keep doing this arms race back and forth. It's the same thing in regular and global geopolitics, right? You can't just keep building better weapons. You got to send your spies out to figure out what's going on. And companies like Dragos and Mandiant and others that provide a lot of this intel are fighting the good fight and letting us know that stuff is there. So that's a good thing. So, all right. Well, that's all of the news. Let's jump into the main segment. And as we talked about before, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity insurance. It's a term that makes people cringe. It's a term that people just go, I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing with it. We're not going to solve all of the problems here or answer every one of your questions, but we will try to to use the same term we just used, proactively, kind of give you some history of what cybersecurity insurance was, where it is now, and then kind of start talking about various aspects of it. So, Nolen, I'm going to turn to you. You and David and I had a discussion last week of kind of about this, kind of go over what you saw as that history, quickly, where it came from, where it was, what you saw, and what you see it as is today, and then we'll just discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's transformed quite a bit. So really years back, that type of cyber coverage, kind of two things to it. One, it was more of like an ancillary product. Sometimes it would be a thrown in sub limit of coverage on your typical general liability policy, or maybe a throw in coverage with another kind of ancillary type product like an employment practices liability policy. And so it really wasn't underwritten very much. One, they weren't offering as high limits as they do now because it wasn't as much of a concern. At least they didn't think it was. And so since it wasn't such a high limit, there wasn't really a lot of underwriting done about it. Maybe a few questions, if that, but it was mostly a throw-in coverage for very minimal cost. And, I remember years back being at a seminar deal, and it was, I think Chubb Insurance, was a carrier. One of the insurance companies was starting to talk about cyber, and it wasn't very known and prevalent as it is now, but they're saying, hey, this is going to be a hot topic. In the insurance world, you get a lot of data, and they're able to kind of forecast situations. Those years ago, they were talking about the auto and insurance market was going to get kind of ugly, and it surely did, and very litigious. But so anyway, they were talking about cyber, and even at that time, even though they're becoming aware of the need of it more, there still wasn't a lot of underwriting to it. Now here we are, present day. It's not a cheap policy. It's not a throw-in policy. There's serious limits, and the way that the coverage is broken out can go into different aspects of what an employer can be looking at cost-wise as a result of a cyber attack. So now you are getting fully underwritten. So they want to know if you've had any previous incidents, and they're going to ask a whole lot more questions to see how well and secure your company is to, one, even offer the coverage, right? Think everybody will quote everything. They really won't. So you really want to set yourself up and look as pretty as you can and nice and secure as you can in order to relax these underwriters, because essentially the cyber market is kind of like a hard market. What that means is, sometimes less limits than they want to offer. They don't have the capacity, higher deductibles, and they're going to ask true underwriting questions. So it's a lot of it's standalone policy now. It's not thrown in attached to other ones. You're going to have its own policy number and its own underwriting. So it's just gotten a lot more detailed and a little bit more stringent on the underwriting side. So from kind of a relaxed mode, throwing in sublimits for a very minimal cost, to we're going to have to go through some Q&A here, and you're going to have to get me nice and comfortable if we're going to offer and if you want a favorable rate. So it's changed dramatically in under 10 years.
So that's it's, so years ago, sorry, you just said a whole lot of stuff, so it's got my mind going in so many different directions, but it was all really good. And I've not, obviously not been as in the weeds as you have on this, but I remember it had to have been 6 or 7 years ago. I had a local friend of mine asked me to go speak at this company or his insurance company, and they had a bunch of their agents from all over the United States came in. And we had there's probably about 20 different agents all in the room, and they didn't understand cybersecurity really at all, right? And he wanted me to give a very high level breakdown of what all you can do within to secure your environment. And I kind of saw that what you're saying, this need for them to understand 6 or 7 years ago, so they could start breaking this down a little bit in their brain. So, and to me, it kind of signaled a change in the way they were approaching it. Like if an agent needs to understand all of these things at the same level that they need to understand auto insurance or health insurance, then that told me there was a change coming. And one of the things you said kind of keyed me into that, because you said that like now, or back then, you pretty much could just get a, here's a policy as a throw in, but now they could actually just straight up deny you service if you're not, or deny you coverage if you're not doing. And I really didn't realize until we had talked about it the other day that was an issue.
Yeah. There's a misconception, that, the insurance companies just want as many policyholders and collect as much premium as possible. And it's definitely a for-profit business, and they're trying to do that. But they, especially in relation to cyber coverage, you got to kind of qualify. If you want the markets that have the more broad coverage and the better pricing, and if as you don't qualify, you get pushed to different markets, and then now, you're in maybe the surplus market, and it's not going to be as broad of coverage. The forms aren't going to be as favorable, and the pricing's not going to be as favorable. So it's before you wouldn't have an issue getting coverage. It really wasn't that much of a topic. But then as typical as it goes, the claims come in, the data starts to come in, the costs come in of what it is. So they go, okay, hold on. We need to ask some more questions, because they're all about, loss prevention and trying to be proactive with loss control. So they want to know, that you have X, Y, and Z set up for you to help if and when it does happen. We've got a pretty good thing to fight it, rather than you don't do anything, you don't really have any protocols, you're going to be a key target and it's going to be ugly. So it's transformed quite a bit. Target, that breach was kind of a big eye opener, I think, for the general public. David and Michael, y'all live in this world, and it's nothing new to you guys, and so I'm sure a lot of the listeners, but that was kind of the eye-opening one, because it's a big name, and you go, well, how this big company, how did somebody get in on them, and it was very public, and so people kind of started to see that, and as it played out, a whole lot of information came in, and people started to kind of put a closer eye onto it. But again, like I mentioned earlier, it's small business as well as large business. It's they don't discriminate.
So David, I swear I'm going to get to you in just a second, but there's a couple of little pieces. One of the things recently I don't think I've told anybody on here, but I had a car wreck, had my car totaled, had to get a new vehicle. The insurance, the person who hit me, my insurance is going after their insurance to recover some of the payment from me. The issue with cybersecurity, and we just talked about it, these ransomware gangs, and a lot of these issues are caused by foreign actors. Extremely difficult to go recover costs for them. So I know there's some costs factored into regular insurance on being able to recover those things. But with this, it causes the price to go up even higher, because you've fully got to be able to recover your costs as an insurance company based off premiums. Is that wrong, or is that right?
That's very right. Yes, and a lot of it is, no surprise, Russia and other foreign actors that are launching the attacks, and so we almost, as the United States, can almost barely legally prosecute because it's from a different country. So we really would be relying on, let's say it is Russia, the Russian government, to go and prosecute. And how much would it cost to try to prosecute over there from the United States? So there's all that cost to go involved as well. So really what they're doing is trying to negotiate down the ransomware amount as much as they can. But at the end of the day, they're cutting the check and none of it's recoverable. At least your beat up car is going to have some decent parts on it that they can rather exchange or for scraps or whatever and recover or subrogate some of that money back. Whereas this money is gone and it's out. And typically the ransomwares are a lot more expensive than the premiums you're paying. And so that's where the market kind of got tilted upside down. The claims going out was a lot more they're collecting in premium. So as a result, the rates have gone up more and the underwriting's gotten more stringent. So absolutely, there's no recovery part to it. So that's tough.
So David is chomping at the bit to jump in here. I see it, and we need to talk about this because there are certain things that cybersecurity insurance companies want to see, and I think maybe David, from CyberArks perspective, what do you see companies coming to you and asking for coverage that would help with their rates? And maybe you and Nolen can kind of go back and forth and talk through those things.
Sure. And definitely back and forth is the best. And I've been enjoying listening as well. And really that's what we have. We started getting, panicked phone calls 18 months ago from organizations saying, can we have PAM for two-factor for PAM done in 30 days? We were very surprised. And the first, from our perspective as a market leader, going out and starting to have some conversations with the insurers and the brokers, because we kind of thought it was like another compliance when we first started seeing it. They're looking for people to do A, B, and C. But when we started speaking to the insurers and the brokers, we realized that they were not looking for A, B, and C check marks. To Nolen's point, an organization that says, what do I need to do at a bare minimum to get cyber insurance is seen as a very risky play for that cyber insurance. They're looking for people to be more proactive and be able to tell that. And when we dug into why, it was just as Nolen was saying, 84K average ransomware in 2019 up to 570K in 2021. And the insurers knew that, yes, they had to raise the premiums. And yes, there were a lot of bad surprise with the size of that increase. But the insurers had to realize that even that increase was not enough to cover their costs. So they really took that two-pronged approach of, let's be able to go, we have to increase the cost. But let's also make sure that people aren't just checking the box, that they're actually doing things to protect themselves so we can have that piece. And when we understood that, now we were able to look down and look at it purely from a threat perspective. And nothing really changed pre and post cyber insurance. Breaches occur the exact same way. We've been the second call for mandate. I mean, CyberArk and Set Solutions have gone in and worked together to clean these organizations up. So the benefit that our customers or the organizations just looking to it is they weren't looking for a new formula. It was basically taking the same formula, which we have been applying years to an organization post-breach or an organization who had to provide measurable risk reduction up to their board and basically being able to tie those pieces together. So the same thing, if our organization is going, we want to protect ourselves, we want to be able to look at the perimeter. So the identity is the new perimeter. The firewalls are great, but they're not the perimeter anymore. The identity is the new perimeter. So looking at those endpoints, being able to look at being able to have EDR, being able to remove admin rights to limit the odds that the bad guy is going to be successful at the endpoint. And then on the internal side, being able to say, okay, yes, we have a lot of accounts that can be compromised, but let's look at the low-hanging fruit, those that cause us the greatest risk. So being able to look at those accounts like domain admin, or as we start to move more into the cloud and CI/CD tools, those consoles which are securing them are tier 0. So let's put together a process where we can say, okay, we know we've got a lot of privileged accounts. We know that, and we know we have a lot of individual accounts, but let's be able to provide those foundational layers. Let's get MFA in place for all of our employees. Let's be able to make sure that our vendors are being provisioned and deprovisioned, and their laptop, coming back to Target, is not going to be the reason that the bad guys breach. And if we're going to assume breach, let's make sure that we're isolating those. Not look at all the privileged accounts internally, but let's start looking at those tier 0 ones first. And then we can provide that plan back to the underwriter. This is what we've done. Our greatest risk is obviously a tier 0. This is the time it's going to take us to do it. And to Nolen's point, the insurers, they do want to sell you the policy, right? But they need to make sure that they're not too exposed as well. So treating it as such and being able to rely on not just a CyberArk and a Set Solutions, but also starting to look at all of your vendors and saying, are these silos or is this a team sport? Does our vulnerability scanner speak to our PAM solution? Is our EDR solution working in conjunction with our removal of admin rights on the workstation so that we can prevent that unified front as well?
So Nolen, all of these things that David's talking about, I mean, CyberArk technology, non-CyberArk technology, the services, the putting the program in place. I know cybersecurity insurance companies ask for those things. How much does the cybersecurity insurance company actually go check to see if these things are done?
Well, and they could actually do an internal call and try to do their checks and balances, but really as an agency, as a representative of our clients, right? What I want to do is get a really good product for you at a good price. Mm-hmm. The more ammunition I have to do that, the easier my job's going to be. We can create, competition in the marketplace, and then it starts working for you. So what would happen is if I would go out for a company and send a submission to the insurance company, I would include all of the CyberArk and Set Solutions information that there is, and they can go, oh, okay, CyberArk, let me go look at their website. What all services do they offer? And so the more I could go to an underwriter with, they got David over there and he's doing XYZ for them. They also have Set Solutions on a consultant basis coming over and looking through this, changing their internal processes. This is what they do. They might not come and necessarily check and audit you to make sure you're doing it. However, in the event of a claim, this stuff will be unearthed then. And if you're saying you are and you're not, you could be into an issue of a claim being denied. So that's kind of really where they get you, is if something occurs, it will be exposed. But on the front end, the more I could provide the information with the services that CyberArk Set Solution are offering a client, the shoulders of the underwriters are going to lower. Multiple underwriters from different companies will be interested. You create that competition, then in the end, the client wins. But if I just send them something very bland, the minimal, answers to a question or the minimal information on their cybersecurity, it's not going to excite an underwriter. It's not going to excite an insurance company, and they might just put it off to the side or decline it because they really don't even want to dig in too much, because what they're reading on the front is not really persuading them, right? And so the more you can explain what a company is doing to protect their information, the better result you're going to get as far as an insurance product, 100%. So again, we bring all that information up front to get everybody involved, get them interested. They'll come back with some Q&A. I think my lights just went off. But it's going to benefit the client at the end of the day. So, part of what the underwriters ask, I pulled it this morning on one of the submissions, was how much do you invest in your IT security? They want to know how much are you putting out to invest? How important is it to you, right? And so the more you can say, I'm buying CyberArk, I got consultants over here with Set Solutions, I'm doing all of these things, and we're invested in it because we care, they're going to get relaxed, and it's going to ultimately get you a better policy. So it's very important.
Did I just jump in there? There's actually two sides of that coin. There's the discussions that we're having with the underwriter. And that's, we want to be able to have the plan. We want to make sure that we're able to achieve these goals realistically. And by the way, the reason why the control switched from just MFA to MFA and MFA for PAM is in that post-incident reconnaissance, they would say, you said you were using MFA, how is this compromised? And they'd say, well, the root account isn't tied to a person, so we couldn't use 2FA for it. So then that resulted in the insurer saying, okay, that's now something that we are going to look at because that is a common attack. So what I'm seeing with organizations is there's two sides. So the treasurer gets the insurance questionnaire. They say, wow, this is way more than I've ever done before. They might go to the CFO, who goes to the CISO, and then they start looking into this. But from that CISO has to be able to provide, yes, that story to the underwriter, what they're going to do, but they also have to be able to tell that story to the operations teams, right? So we're being asked to do this. How are we going to put these controls? And by the way, these are also products that maybe we weren't looking at this year. Maybe this is something we're planning to do next year, and we weren't quite ready for it. So now we're having to react. And when we react, how are we going to be able to do this without affecting operational efficiency in our business to run our business? And that, I think, is what comes in even more than technology. Yes, technology in place, but Michael, you know better than anyone, it's that assistance to be able to get it deployed and be able to be deployed without impacting operational efficiency and not changing people's workflow. So when we can provide that story back to the underwriter, how we're going to improve our security, and then provide that story to operations, how we're going to increase security without impacting operational efficiency, that's how we're truly able to make those gains in the short time required.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tomorrow I'm doing a webinar with one of our other vendors, SecurityGate, and we're talking about being able to do security assessments, and that's kind of the maturity of that and a lot of people aren't. We talked about being proactive. They need to know that they're starting there to figure out where their gaps are, to figure out where these products go in. But then I think there's almost like an extra level of saying, okay, if we're going to try to move any of this risk over to our insurance policy, then we've got to really specifically look at what they need to be able to get these costs down, which should line up extremely well at one point with your gap assessment. But it sounds like there are some very specific use cases that the insurance providers want to see. I think it's actually really cool because it's driving innovation and telling companies what kind of products they should have, and it's telling the product companies what kind of features they should offer in order to, very focused and get some of this stuff knocked out of your organization. And a lot of that, like you said before, David, comes down to just straight up identity, covering your identity, making sure that you can't escalate privileges all over the place and use this identity that's root or whatever, admin, whatever that is, to get all over your environment. Really interesting. I like how it's all kind of tied together. We talked about the history lesson before, but I don't think 10 years ago would have ever have tied these things together. It was just, oh, you got an insurance policy. It's the same way. But it seems kind of obvious now when you think about it, because my insurance policy, whether I've got a V6 or a V8, or I've got, anti-lock brakes, or I don't have this, or I don't have airbags, all affect. It's just a different model. So, gentlemen, we could talk about this. I have said this on every show. We could talk about this for another hour. And everybody who's listening or watching or will listen to this later, this really is, when you dig into it, it doesn't at the top level sound interesting. It doesn't sound fun. Nolen loves insurance, but nobody else probably loves insurance. But it really is an extremely interesting topic when you see how this all kind of ties together, and what the history is, and what the changes have happened, and how it's driving innovation, and how it's affecting things. I think this could, in the next 3 to 5 years, we could have some really good news articles coming out of this, where this drove some type of innovation and it stopped this type of attack. I think that could happen a lot sooner than 3 to 5 years. Probably happens right now. So thank you all very much for being here. Nolen, I'll say goodbye to you first. Sorry you couldn't make it to the office, but you are here local in Houston. Hopefully you can make it in sometime. So thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me. Love to come back and sit and chat with you again. So thank you very much. Nice to meet you too, David.
All right, David. Is David frozen?
Oh, there I am.
There he is. He was just staring there for a second. Okay. David, you want to say your goodbyes?
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time, and we more than welcome the opportunity to have that discussion on the how, that consultative approach, and again, push all of your vendors. It's not just about the technology; it's about the how it's going to be able to meet the outcomes that you need, and how they're going to play together with all of those other pieces. And obviously, from Michael and Set Solutions' perspective, having that advisor to be able to really start to tie those things together. So thank you so much for the time, and look forward to any follow-up conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. And just everybody out there, if you are interested in this topic, we have talked to CyberArk about doing some events around cyber insurance. So if you are interested and want to do either a straight up webinar with them, or do some on-site stuff where we can do an in-person type of event somewhere at a lunch or something like that, please let us know. I do think this is a lot more interesting than people give it credit for. So Nolen, David, thank you very much for coming out and being on the call. Everybody, thank you for joining us for episode 43, and we will see you in a couple of weeks for episode 44. See you later.
Great day.